Public speaking, everyone's greatest fear. Hello, and welcome to Popcorn News. Today is November 6th, 2015. The time is 4:30 in the morning, so I am using artificial lighting, in other words, light bulbs. And that means that I'm somewhat obscured in what you can see. Someone named Kathy Gannon has given a talk at McGill University, and she is a long-time Associated Press reporter. So here's an excerpt of what she has to say.
I'm not sure if you have noticed, but the level of skepticism and mistrust of reporters and our reporting has increased, not just here, but in most countries. Some would say that is to be expected in countries where governments control the media, but what about countries like here or in other Western democracies where we have allowed the government to control the conversation, set the narrative, where our lack of questioning and our assumption going into our questioning is too often, first, that there is a moral ground, and second, that we somehow stand on it.
Pardon me, it wasn't McGill University. It was the McGill Lecture, the 37th McGill Lecture, delivered at the University of Georgia on November 4th, 2015. Gannon spoke self-critically about her profession. This is not, I have often said, or called the Western news the news fakers, and I don't mean all news personnel. There's a lot of them that are trying to tell the truth. One fine example is Matthew Lee at the State Department press briefings. There's something called the Frankfurt School. The World Socialist website, which I do not entirely agree, nonetheless does some excellent reporting, and they have called attention to this petty bourgeois, pseudo-left Frankfurt School, a fake left. America is a plane which flies with only one wing, and it ain't left. The Frankfurt School is a mask or an artifice to make people think, yes, the left is having some kind of voice in the United States, but it's just a fake. It's not about, they don't talk about overall jobs. They keep emphasizing division, not class division, but race, so-called race division, gender division, sex identity division, and all these so-called issues are acceptable for the establishment in the United States because they don't threaten its overall hold on the way things are. And so here's someone with whom I do not entirely agree, nonetheless giving his explanation of the Frankfurt School.
Karl Marx's revolution started as class warfare in which he set the proletarians against the bourgeois, with the goal of creating a new proletarian world order. Due to the failure of the proletarian labor unions to bring about communist governments in Western Europe, the Frankfurt School, as well as the American Communist Party, shifted their efforts to mobilize women and minorities into the revolutionary ranks in America. The major advance towards this goal was the nationwide campaign against discrimination, that led to a series of laws passed by the U.S. Congress during subsequent years. The Frankfurt School, a group of cultural or transformational Marxists, launched a program of psychological warfare against our American civilization. We need to know what it was and how it was set to work, because the Frankfurt schools were even more successful than the Communist Party in achieving its goals.
Tragedy and Hope by Carroll Quigley. He is famous as an insider who revealed in his writings an Anglo-American establishment. And he was a professor that taught, among other students, Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton praised Quigley in his inaugural speech. Quigley, though, is kind of ignored as to his overall history. He mentions the Anglo-American Establishment early in his book Tragedy and Hope, but he goes into so much more. He gives you the big picture of history. And one thing that he goes into is how in the late 1800s, anarchism and socialism were aligned. And that's always puzzled me, because the anarchists are for eliminating government, and the socialists are the opposite. They want there to be a big government. But back in the late 1800s, those two had been aligned, but then they realized, hey, we're kind of working in opposite directions here, and they split. But so I can't go into all this, and not in this clip, all this history of socialism. There's a lot of different factions in socialism. The World Socialist website is anti-Frankfurt School, vehemently anti-Frankfurt School, and they are constantly warning about it. Frankfurt School, as already stated, seeks to divide us. It seeks to divide us along lines of so-called race, gender, and sexual identity. And a lot of people are fooled by this. And a bunch of activists in Boulder, Colorado, rallied outside the Republican Party presidential debates, and one African-American gentleman spoke. And the problem is he Frankfurt School or not? How can you tell? Here's a clip of him speaking, and you be the judge.
Some of my black African-American friends said, don't go to Boulder, don't speak. The best thing that can happen for the Democratic Party and justice is to let that clown keep talking. But we say no.
In our state, no hate. In our state, no hate. In our state, no hate. In our state, no hate.
Thank you for watching Popcorn News. My late friend Sherman H. Skolnick of Chicago had the frequent witticism, "America is a plane which flies with only one wing, and it ain't left. The Frankfurt School seeks to divide us along lines of so-called race, gender, and sexual identity. But this is all perfectly fine with the Anglo-American Establishment, which seeks to maintain power through the strategy of divide and conquer."